What's cooking, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I thought I'd do a ranking video. I figured since it's halfway through the year, which is crazy to think about, I'd rank all the UFC pay-per-views we've gotten so far, from worst to best, pretty much just based on how they looked on paper and as well partially as how they turned out on the night. And I'm mostly just going to be talking about the main cards because, I mean, that's really all anyone cares about when it comes to pay-per-view cards, because that's, what they expect people to pay for. But yeah, I'm going to be ranking every card from every pay-per-view card from 311 to 317. I'm not going to include the upcoming cards because they could get added to, and to be honest, they're not looking great. So yeah, without further ado, here's my ranking for every pay-per-view so far in 2025. And keep in mind, at the end of the year, I will, of course, rank all the pay-per-views that have happened, and the list could change, but as of right now, here's all the pay-per-views ranked so far. Starting off at number 7, the worst card of the year so far. It's no one's surprise. UFC 312. This card was fucking horrible. And even though I went to this card in person and had a good experience, the main card specifically on paper, holy fucking fuckballs, it was awful. Like, outside of the 2 title fights, there was not a single ranked fighter on the entire fucking card. I mean, they could have switched it up a bit and maybe put Topuria versus Thickness on the main card and Anshul the King at Curry Jubilee on the main card. Maybe that would have made things a bit better. But no, they put Jake fucking Matthews on the main card, who I don't care about, who no one cares about anymore. They put Jimmy Crute on a main card. And then Justin Toffa in the goddamn feature fight. Like, could they not get a feature fight for this card? Holy shit. Even if they got fucking Neil Magny to fight in the fucking feature fight, it'd be better than this. At least we'd get someone ranked. Holy Jesus. Yeah, this card's awful. The main event was a rematch which we wanted 6 months ago before it happened. Honestly, if they'd just done this instead of Adesanya versus Duplessis back in Perth, I honestly think it would have been better then. But now we wanted the Hamzat fight. If we had gotten the Hamzat fight, this card would have been a little bit more acceptable because at least it would have been a hype main event. But no, they gave us a rematch that we wanted 6 months ago. The co-main event was a women's fight. Enough said. Justin Toffa in the fucking feature fight against Taliesin Teixeira, this was pretty much his debut. Luckily, it ended in 30 seconds. Crute versus Bellato. Why the fuck was this on the main card? Why the fuck is Jake Matthews on a main card in 2025? No one cares about Jake Matthews. Yeah, honestly, I would have fixed this card just a little bit. Put Topuria versus Thickness as probably the 4th fight on the main card. You may as well keep Toffa versus Teixeira as the feature fight because it only lasted 30 seconds. And it would have had Anshul Jubilee, believe it or not, on the main card because at least that fight ended in 19 seconds. And that would have been a decent-ish main card. Not on paper, but it would have been better to sit through. Because I ain't gonna lie, the prelims for this card were actually really good. Like, honestly, I was more hyped for some of these prelims than I was for the main card. And I can't imagine how boring it would have been watching it at home. So yeah, honestly, if they just rearranged some of the fights, I honestly think the main card could have been salvageable. In terms of how the fights played out, in terms of excitement, the main event was decent, I mean, Duplessis put a clinic on Sean Strickland. The co-main event was boring. It was literally just the majority of the fight was just Whaley laying in half guard, landing strikes. The feature fight between Taffer and Teixeira was awesome. I mean, it only lasted 30 seconds. The whole fight fits into an Instagram reel. Jimmy Crute versus Bellato. Yeah, it was actually not that bad of a fight. Shouldn't have been on a pay-per-view, but yeah, it wasn't that bad. And then Jake Matthews versus Francisco Prado was fucking boring. And again, why is Jake Matthews on a main card? Jesus Christ. Now I kind of never want them to come to Sydney. If this is going to be the standard whenever they come to Sydney, my God. These Sydney cards just keep getting worse and worse. Seriously, could they have not gotten anyone ranked? Could they have not gotten Tai Tuivasa to get off his fat ass and at least, put a ranked fight on this card? But yeah, this is by far the worst card of the year. Next on the list, we had UFC 315, Muhammad versus Della Maddalena, and I didn't actually watch this card outside of the main event live because this card was on Mother's Day, so I was watching some shitty Johnny Depp movie instead. I don't know, the movie was so fucking boring. But it couldn't have been much worse than how this card played out, because honestly, this card was... We had 2 women's fights on the main card, come on. But anyway, let's take a look at the main card. The main event between Bilal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena. It was awesome on paper, and it was even more awesome in real life. JDM boxed the head off Bilal Muhammad, showed beautiful head movement, beautiful shot selection, working head to body, had really good takedown defense, and just looked absolutely phenomenal. Like, I was umming and ahhing between who I was going to pick leading up to the fight, and on the channel I said I was picking Bilal, like, as a joke, but I really picked JDM. Like, you can check my Instagram that I picked JDM. So yeah, that was correct. But yeah, the fight was awesome. The co-main event, didn't watch it, don't fucking care, refuse to rewatch it. Aldo versus Ayman Sahabi, that was actually a really good fight. I mean, I don't know why the UFC fucking hate Aldo. Like, not only did they give him a guy who didn't deserve to be fighting him, since the UFC cares about legends so much, apparently, which they clearly don't. It was just some bullshit Dana made up to justify Jones versus Stipe. But yeah, he gets robbed as well. Like, they give him a shitty matchup and then they fucking rob him. And they didn't even give him a fucking retirement send off. They gave Anthony Smith one, Jesus Christ. Next, we had my two girlfriends going at it with Alexa Grasso versus Natalia Silva. I didn't really watch the fight, honestly. I just watched their asses the entire time. And then Benoit Saint Denis, he was supposed to fight Joel Alvarez. It ended up being Kyle Prepolek. And he ends up finishing him in 2 rounds, which was expected because they literally brought the guy off the couch out of retirement, I think. So yeah, Benoit just went in there and finished him. Overall, on paper, it wasn't the best card, but also wasn't the worst. I mean, having 2 women's fights on a main card of a pay-per-view definitely isn't a good look. The men's fights were decent. Like, it was definitely better than the last Canada card. That was woeful. And on paper, not on paper, the fights kind of delivered in real life. Like, the main event was awesome. The feature fight was great. The main card opener was decent. The women's fights fucking suck, so that definitely brought the card down, but it was better than the Sydney card, I'll say that. But yeah, overall, it comes in at number 6. Not a great card. Awesome main event, but kind of a lackluster card. Coming in at number 5, we have UFC 313, Pereira versus Ankalaev. And I was actually kind of hyped for this card, because on paper, it's actually a pretty decent card. And the main event I was really hyped for, because we're finally going to see Pereira fight what was supposed to be his nightmare matchup, and, well, ended up being his nightmare matchup. I'm still fucking pissed about this card. Well, about the main event, I should say. But yeah, taking a look at the card, the main event ended up sucking in real life, but on paper, we were really excited for it. The co-main event between Gaethje and Fiziev, I know it says Dan Hooker on the screen, but I couldn't be bothered to find the updated card. That ended up being a good fight, like, kind of like what you expected. It was somewhat, I would have preferred we gotten Gaethje Hooker, but, you know, it wasn't terrible considering it was on short notice. Jalen Turner versus Ignacio Bahamondes ended in a cool finish, and I was somewhat intrigued about that matchup leading into it. Amanda Lemos versus, I don't even fucking know who this is. That should not have been on the main card. That fight really stunk up the card. And then Bobby Green, I'm not calling him fucking King Green, versus Mauricio Rufy. Fucking KO, one of the best KOs of the year. Just fucking flatlined him with that spinning hook kick. Kicked off the card really well. And overall, it was a decent card. Yeah, the main event sucked. And not to mention, the result was not what we wanted. But the rest of the card outside the women's fight was actually pretty fun. We got some cool finishes. We got a good scrap between Gaethje and Fiziev. It wasn't the greatest card. It was a pretty average card, like, to sum it up. We had some highlight reel finishes, a fun scrap. Like, it was worth the time. Coming in at number 4, we have UFC 316, O'Malley versus Dvalishvili 2, a card which I was not hyped for whatsoever. Like, leading up to it, I really just couldn't give a shit about it because it was a pointless main event, a women's co-main event, and a bunch of mid-fights. But honestly, this card kind of over-delivered. Like, honestly, it was more stacked than I gave it credit for. Like, don't get me wrong, this wasn't UFC 300 by any stretch, but it was actually a pretty decent card. The prelims were fairly stacked, and the main card was actually pretty fun as well. Now, taking a look at the main card, the main event was an absolute domination by Merab. He showed that Sean O'Malley did not deserve the rematch whatsoever. It was gifted to him, and yeah, he just went out there and really made a statement. And for a main event that I had zero hype for, it actually ended up being kind of fun. Same with Pena versus Kayla Harrison. I was weirdly somewhat hyped, or at least intrigued about this. And yeah, luckily we didn't have to sit through 5 rounds of this. Kayla Harrison submitted Juliana Pena. inside 2 rounds, ending the main event sorry, not the main event, the co-main event pretty quickly. So we moved on. Gaslam versus Python. I missed half of this fight, and I missed the entirety of Batista versus Patchy Mix because my fucking TV at the bar cut out. So yeah, I missed that fight, but I rewatched them, and they were decent fights. And then the main card opener between Kevin Holland and Vicente Luque was a pretty good fight. Ended at a cool finish. We got a lot of submissions on this card. That's the thing, which was fun. And then of course on the prelims, Joshua Van versus Bruno Silva was great. What's his name again? Quillan Sakil, the Redeemer, came back and destroyed a Jew, and well, not destroyed, but you know, Korean McGregor as well got a sick fucking highlight reel KO, and overall, yeah, it was actually a pretty decent card. You know, I was shitting on it leading up to it, but it surpassed my expectations. Still doesn't compare to these following cards. Now we're going to get into some of the good shit. Coming in at number 3, we have UFC 311. And honestly, this had the potential to be the number 1 on this list, but unfortunately the main event fell through literally the day before the fight. I remember waking up at like 7:30 in the morning and then just seeing that Arman Sarukian had pulled out. I was like, what the actual fuck? And then it said that Moicano was stepping up, and again, I was like, what the fuck? Because we lost not only on an awesome main event between Islam and Arman, but we also lost Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano, which we got at 317, sorry, and it ended up being kind of a mid-fight. But still, had we gotten the original main event, it would have been probably the best card of the year, and probably the best card since UFC 300, because how rare is it that we get 2 good title fights on one card? Like, both of these fights probably could have headlined their own card. Because usually whenever the UFC do 2 title fights, it's always a women's title fight or a flyweight fight that no one cares about. Don't get me wrong, I love me some Pantoja, but no one gives a fuck about Pantoja versus Kai Kara France, or a quadrilogy between him and Moreno. Him versus Josh Van, I wouldn't mind if that headlined the card, not gonna lie, because that's actually a sick fight. But yeah, this card was actually crazy stacked. We had Islam versus Moicano, you had Merab versus Umar, where Umar lost. Suck a dick, Dagestani fans. Yuri versus Hill, where Hill got slept. Gee, I can't even... Jamal Hill and Umar Nurmagomedov lost on the same card. That's another good thing about this card. Anyway, we had Jailton Almeida versus Sergey Spivak. He's a great fighter. I'd love to fight him. We had Kevin 4570 Holland versus Rainier de Ritter. Rainier went out there and submitted Kevin Holland. We also had Peyton Talbot on the prelims. But yeah, this card was crazy stacked. And most of the fight, actually the whole card was actually pretty good. Kevin Holland versus Rainier de Ritter ended in a first round finish. Jailton Almeida versus Sergey Spivak was also a first round finish, sorry. Yuri Prohaska and Jamal Hill was a brutal beatdown from Yuri Prohaska of Jamal Hill. I mean, Hill had his moments here and there, but Jamal Hill beat the fuck out of him. Let's not stretch the truth here. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Merab was an awesome fight, probably the best fight on the card. Umar fucking lost. I was hyping. It was just such a high-level fight. And then the main event, Islam makes easy work of Moicano. I still wish we got to see Islam versus Arman, because honestly, that was probably the toughest test for Islam, but sadly, we're never going to see it because Arman missed weight or injured his back or whatever the fuck he did. So yeah, but overall, this was probably a really good card, and it was a great way to start the year. Unfortunately, the rest of the year hasn't quite lived up to this card, but still, a great card nonetheless. Coming in at second place, we have UFC 317, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. And on paper, I'll be honest, this card wasn't as good as 311. I mean, it was good, just not as good as like other cards, because we've been gaslit into accepting that this is a UFC 300 level card because we're used to getting shit cards. But part of the reason why this card turned out so great is because the fights were pretty good for the most part. And not only that, we got to see Kai Kara France get choked out, which was fucking hilarious after all this time of him going, oh, I'm married, doing that stupid fucking hawker in like every fucking promotional material. It was so satisfying seeing him get choked out. But looking at this main card, you had Peyton Talbot versus Felipe Lima as the main card opener. Not the best main card opener, but it was decent. I mean, I'd rather this than fucking Bo Nickel. And it was a decent fight. Beneil Dariush versus Moicano, which is a good fight on paper, but the fight turned out to be kind of mid. Royval versus Van. Now, this fight I was pretty excited for. I knew it was going to be fight of the night for sure, but man, it surpassed my expectations. It ended up being a fucking fight of the year. Like, I knew it was going to be a good fight, but it just, wow. I know I'm going to get shit for this, but I still kind of wish we saw Manel Cap fight Royval. Like, I'm still kind of sad he pulled out. Because honestly, I think he could have beaten Royval before it, and after seeing how he looked against Van, like, not saying he looked bad, but just seeing how he's hittable, and, how he's, you know, I think Manel Cap definitely could have beaten Royval. I know I'm going to sound like I'm glazing, but he's more powerful than Joshua Van for sure. He's faster. He's a little bit more dynamic. But yeah, whatever. Anyway, it turned out it was a really good fight. I was excited for it, and yeah. Pantoja versus Kai France. Wasn't really hyped for this because Kai France is coming off one win, but seeing him get choked out, after doing the stupid fucking haka thing, was so satisfying. Even though I don't know why he fucking does it all the time. He's like 80% white. You don't see Carlos Olberg doing it all the time. And he's actually like fucking Maori. And then the main event, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. I wish it was him versus Islam, but sadly this is the best we're gonna get. Still a great fight. Ended in a brutal fashion. It was sad but satisfying at the same time because on one hand I'm a huge fan of Ilia Topuria and I love seeing him win. Like I don't know why people hate Ilia. Like he's good for our sport. But on the other hand, it was sad seeing Charles Oliveira get slumped out like that because I'm still a big Charles fan. He gave us a lot of memories through the years. Like I loved seeing his title reign, and it was sad to see him get slumped out cold. But overall, I really think part of what carries this card was like the last three fights because I'll be honest, it started off kind of mid. The prelims were kind of fun as well. Like Gregory Rodriguez fucking killed the crafty vet Jack Hermanson. But overall, I think like I said, what really carries this card above 311 was the top three fights, and maybe the main event being hyped. Because I mean, even though we both knew the results of the main events for both 311 and 317 ahead of time, I feel like 317's was just more shocking because just the way he slept Charles Oliveira, the way his body hit the floor. Even though I knew it was going to happen, it still blew my mind. But yeah, not to mention we also got the fight of the year on this card. That's kind of what carries it over. But yeah, UFC 317, great card. Kind of surpassed my expectations because going into it, I said this is kind of mid compared to previous international fight weeks. But, I mean, it was definitely better than 303. But yeah, moving on to my number one choice. I mean, come on. It's UFC 314. This was actually the best card of the year. A lot of people are saying it's 317, but no. It's got to be 314 because, for starters, we had a goated main event where we had Volk win the belt back. Mate, fucking Volk's getting the fucking belt back. Fucking love the Aussie casual impression that Bedtime does. You also had Chandler versus Pimlet, and the main card as well was really stacked. And it just lives up to expectations. I was so scared for Volk going into this. Like, I really thought he was going to get slumped out cold again for the third time in a row and then he'd retire. And I picked against him going into this fight. But just to see him go out there and look so damn good against Lopez, I mean, he didn't look unbeatable, I will say. Like, he didn't look 1,000% like the Volk from old, but he looked good enough. Like, he still looks strong. He looks like he's still got some life left in him. His jab was amazing. He did get cracked a few times, and he did look hesitant, which is kind of why, again, like I said, he didn't look as unbeatable as the Volkanovski of old. Like, I think Volkanovski from 3 years ago, the one that fought Holloway, I think that one would 50-44. Diego Lopez might even finish him. But either way, he got his hand raised. He looked great while doing so, and I'm really glad. So yeah, the main event, well, I was excited. Oh, actually, I was scared for it, but it was a good main event on paper, and it delivered. It was the fight of the night, and it was awesome. Co-main event between Chandler and Pimlet. I don't know who the fuck thought Chandler was going to win this. Like, if you pick Chandler to win, you're an idiot. Like, picking Chandler to win a fight is like thinking a Jurassic World movie is going to be good. Like, come on, if you think that, you're an idiot. But yeah, Chandler went out there and got absolutely mauled by Paddy Pimlet. We were kind of hyped for the fight going into it, and it delivered on paper. Rodriguez versus Pitbull was kind of mid. It wasn't the greatest fight, but yeah, whatever. Not every fight on the main card is going to be like a banger. Mitchell versus Silva, we were hyped for this shit. Like, this is probably the most hyped I've ever been for like a low-ranked fight, and the fight was fucking awesome. Silva dropped Bryce Mitchell and then submitted him, which I was not expecting. I actually think I picked Bryce Mitchell because I thought maybe the wrestling would be a bit too much. I was kind of on the fence when it came to my prediction. Like, I kind of knew Gene Silva was going to win, but I went with Bryce Mitchell just because, like, I thought I thought, knowing me, if I pick Gene Silva by knockout, Bryce Mitchell will go out there and just, like, ragdoll him. And we didn't know how good Gene Silva's grappling was. But, man, he looked great out there. And honestly, I think if he makes it to a title shot, like, I think he's going to beat Diego Lopez. And after that, if he gets the next title shot, I can really see him beating Volkanovski and being the one to permanently end his reign. Whereas if Movzar does it instead, which would fucking suck. I don't know if he beats Movzar. Maybe he could. But again, we'll have to see more of his grappling, maybe against Diego Lopez. And then, of course, the main card opener, Dominic Reyes absolutely slept Nikita Krylov, and I was kind of expecting Nikita Krylov to put an end to the Dominic Reyes resurgence. But man, he pretty much pulled the McGregor out of KO. Like, just, it was beautiful. But yeah, overall, UFC 314 absolutely was the best card of the year. Pretty much every fight on the main card was awesome. Even the worst fight on the card wasn't boring per se. We still got a knockdown from Yair versus Pitbull. But yeah, UFC 314, great card on paper. And it was just as advertised, and we had multiple crazy moments. Well, that's all I've got for you guys today. That was my list. I hope you enjoyed. A bit of a longer video than usual, mainly because I had a lot to say, because, I've got to talk about entire cards. But yeah, thought I'd do something different just because I'm bored. But thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe, share the video. I want to quit my shitty job. Hashtag all hail the Marlin Army. And I will see you guys pretty soon, actually, because I've got to make my UFC 318 predictions. Ugh, it's such a mid card. I probably would just do a main event prediction and speed run the rest of the card because I really couldn't be bothered breaking down the entire card. But yeah, I'll see you guys when that happens later this week. Goodbye.